Artificial intelligence. Rabia, can you please? Thank you.
Hello, hello, yes. Hi. First, I would like to thank the scientific committee and Dr. Scaff, he's somewhere, for having me. I'm delighted to be here. As I was listening to the keynote presentations yesterday, I came to two realizations. The first one is that I needed to change the content of my presentation today because the presenters touched on the same points that I wanted to raise, and there was no point repeating the same. And since my background is into IoT, that's my specialty, I kind of weaved in a lot of IoT inside this presentation. The second thing that I noticed is that since we overlap so much, I noticed how little we know. I mean, humanity is launching into this big unknown with very little risk management. We really don't know. We don't know if that AI is, using Calum's words yesterday, is going to encase us because it will love us so much and will put us in glass coffins so we don't move and we don't risk crossing the street and dying, or it's going to recycle our atoms for something else. We have no idea. And it's an interesting thought, and I will build on that a little bit later in my presentation. So, starting with IoT, and the reason will be obvious as I progress. What IoT is, it's things, connectivity, and services. Things are, you've heard about IoT a lot in the past few years. Things are anything, whether in the consumer space, thermostat, light bulb, switch, etc., or in the industrial space, truck, container on a ship, manufacturing plant, machines in the manufacturing plant. What we can do today, not tomorrow, today, we can put sensors, we can put actuators, we can wire anything. And we have the networks to give it an IP. So anything can have an IP, including this microphone, including the floor, and sensors and IP, and we can connect it to services running on some computer somewhere in a data center that we call the cloud. And what we will have in that data center is some business processes, some applications that are going to use that data, interact with the thing, tell us how that thing is being used, etc. I have to use this clicker. So before I go forward on what that means, I know also we've all been exposed to staggering numbers when it comes to IoT, but there are a couple that are really interesting. A couple of facts that are interesting. First, in 2019, we're at an inflection point. IoT market penetration is almost at 20%. And if we're to compare with other technological phenomena, like the mobile phone that happened 15 years ago, and other things, when we're at 20% in an innovation-type product, it means that the slow adoption phase has been crossed, and now we're going to get into warp speed. The curve is going to change, it's an inflection point, and we will reach 100% penetration tomorrow, soon. That's why the future is today. We're there. Now, what are we going to do about it? In 2019, every second, tick, tick, we have 130 devices being connected to the internet every second. Predictions, analysts, if we're to believe analysts, are saying we're going to get to 75 billion devices connected to the internet by 2025, which is 2025 is in 6 years. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means we have a lot of data, and hence the interest with, hence the marriage with AI. But what does that mean for the enterprise and for the economy? The first really important thing is that we're leveling the playing field between Facebook and Google, etc., and Amazon and Baidu and Tencent, between those people and Philips and Electrolux and Siemens and Samsung and others. We're leveling the data playing field between tech and non-tech. this monopoly that Silicon Valley and China had over large data sets that are coming from the behavior, like that are being collected due to the, based on the behavior of people using applications, software applications. Now industrial companies have almost data sets that are of the same quality and of the same size. What does that mean? That means that suddenly enterprises, manufacturing and enterprise are going to change, because the enterprise ended at its walls. It was contained. A manufacturing plant was contained when we created the good and sent it, and opened the door of the warehouse and sent it to the consumer. We lost touch with whatever we produced. Because somebody was going to take it, distribute it. The consumer will never hear what happened, will never know what happened to that particular good until somebody calls customer support or they want after sales. We don't know what's happening to it. But now that we can add sensors to everything, we know how something is being manufactured. We know how something is being delivered to its final user. We know how the final user is using the thing. We have control, we have visibility over anything throughout its life cycle. And that changes everything. That is bound to change the fundamental business models that organizations use to sell stuff. As a simple example, if I know how people use my washing machine and I'm Electrolux, well, I can, or Samsung, I can decide, instead of selling it, I can move to as a service model. People would pay me for using it. And I'm sure some customer segments who don't have a lot of cash would appreciate the fact that they don't have to put in $1,000 upfront, $500 to acquire a washing machine. They can go to a website and say, I want a washing machine. It will be delivered. And every time they press spin, they will pay out of their credit card something. And if they can't pay, it'll lock with their clothes inside it. Sorry, I missed moving to this slide. I'm a little bit confused between my computer and that screen. So I'm going to look this way from now on. And the third thing that IoT will lead to, it will enable ecosystems compared to discrete products. We're used to buying a washing machine, a fridge. Sometimes we buy them together from the same vendor because we want them to look the same. The kitchen would look nicer. That's a kind of an ecosystem, but we're talking beyond that. Actually, the best example of an ecosystem is the phone, is the iPhone or Android. This is not just a product by itself. That's, your iPhone has, probably you have 50 apps. That's 50 different companies at least, or at most 50 different companies. And you might have a headset that you bought not from Apple, and you might have a charger from somebody else. That's a good example of an ecosystem, of a platform, where several vendors are collaborating to give you that experience, instead of you buying discrete devices. A good example in IoT of something like that is in home automation is Smart Things, if you know that company. You have to buy their gateway, and then you can buy the security camera, you can buy the lock, you can buy the thermostat. They all kind of talk together. It's an ecosystem. And what this also means, that the fact that we will need, that there will be a rise of ecosystems in the industry, is that there will be winners, people that will know how to put in an iOS type experience on your home automation or industrial equipment or transportation or smart city or whatever. And people who will lose, who will not know, there'll be Apples and Nokias. People who will not know the value of the ecosystem. Now, as far as the adoption of IoT is concerned, we will go through 3 phases. We're into the full first phase today. We're connecting the unconnected. We have so much stuff that is unconnected. Now, we might be also connecting useless stuff. People might create a connected table, and that will prove with time that it's useless, or a connected microphone, or connected glass, or not. But today, entrepreneurs, organizations, people are striving to create products that are increasingly connected, and That's where we are today. The second phase, and given how fast things are going, within 10 years, almost everything will be connected. It'll be so cheap to build connectivity into everything. Whether on the computing side, chips are becoming extremely cheap, sub-dollar, to give this microphone a little brain and some sensors and connect it. It could cost just $1 on top of any product. So there's that. And the second phase is making things smarter. And the best example for that is the self-driving car. Think of the self-driving car as a big IoT device, and the same way as the self-driving car is autonomous. A lot of IoT devices that we'll get, we're at this phase, we think of IoT devices as passive, and they send the data, and then there's some intelligence in the cloud that will decide what to do with that data. But increasingly, as computing power keeps increasing, keeps becoming cheaper and smaller, a lot of the smartness will be in the device itself, like self-driving cars, but the link with the internet will remain, as the data that comes out of these devices will be sent back to some central application to be analyzed and incorporated in different ways. Which brings me to the third wave. For the developers amongst you, or people that have an experience creating software, imagine having an API on top of everything. Imagine having an API on top of the chair, the microphone, the clothes, the watch, the screen. Everything has an API, and you have the ability, if you have access to these devices, to orchestrate them. Imagine the potential for creating new user experiences on the fly. If you look at the Facebook application or iPhone, the past 10 years, you've seen how it evolved as Apple or Facebook have kept improving the user experience to fit what people are trying to do with that application. Now imagine similar stuff happening in the physical world, just because devices are smart and they have APIs, and giving developers all kinds of the power to recombine them in all kinds of ways. Now, primary uses of IoT, I believe you've had a session, I wasn't here already, on industrial IoT. I'm not going to go deep on that. You've heard of it. Consumer stuff, industry, manufacturing, utilities, energy, telecom, transportation, etc. When most people think about IoT, they think about consumer applications, fitness trackers, thermostat, but that's really the small portion. The big application of IoT is in the industry and in the enterprise. Now, the relationship between IoT and AI are symbiotic. They go hand in hand. IoT connects the world, brings the data in, gives us abilities to orchestrate all these things everywhere, and AI is what creates meaning out of that data. Because naturally, if you have 75 billion devices, chatty devices, talking all the time, sending data all the time, you need something with the power of AI to know what to do with that data. I deal with a lot of organizations that have started IoT initiatives, and one of the biggest problems they just have data, they don't know what to do with the data. So AI goes really hand in hand, and there's another technology that will go with that ecosystem, go into that ecosystem. It's blockchain. If we're connecting the world, there's definitely a big security and data privacy issue that needs to be solved. And so far, blockchain seems to be the promising technology that will go hand in hand with IoT to achieve that. We'll have to see. And by the way, before I go further, also we can think about AR, augmented reality, is also a technology that will go with IoT and AI, especially in industrial applications. Now, thinking about AI, we've been through 4 waves or 4 different compartments of AI as of today. The first one is internet AI. You see it in Facebook and Google. The advertising in Facebook and Google. When you open YouTube, the videos that you see are being picked for you by some AI algorithm. Music applications like Spotify or like Anghami, let's use a local application, when they show you, when you get a playlist that's being curated by AI, etc. So that's the internet AI we've been experiencing now for a long time. Business AI, we don't see it, but it has been there also for a long time. If we think about data that is in financial institutions, deciding if somebody is creditworthy or not, there's a lot of AI there. And perception AI, yesterday, the presenters talked about it. Image recognition has seen a sharp increase in accuracy after 2012, and speech recognition, etc. So even perception AI now it's all around us. Applications classify, photo applications classify people. They tell you there's a cat, that's a person, this person is smiling, all that stuff. Siri and all that. That's perception AI. It's all around us. Autonomous AI is starting to be all around us. Self-driving cars, the Google Phoenix taxis that are self-driving, etc. That's going to be there soon, and that's going to extend also to other areas. So all these different types of AIs have been around us now for more than a decade, and they will displace jobs. Now, as I said, I re-edited my presentation based on yesterday's content. But what I kept is this. I took this actually from a book by Kai-Fu Lee, who is one of the leading figures in AI in Silicon Valley and mainly in China. So he did this classification of cognitive and physical jobs, and jobs can be social or asocial, and they can be physical jobs can be dexterous and require less dexterity. They can be performed in an unstructured environment or in a very structured environment. And cognitive jobs can require a lot of strategy and creativity, or they don't depend, or they're optimization-based jobs. Now, and he created these 4 quadrants where you have a safe zone. People that have a profession in that zone are safe in the next 20 years, let's say, not more. And people that are in the danger zone will lose their jobs in the next 3, 4, 5 years. It's not going to take long. People in the human veneer might keep their jobs, but they might be paid less. I'll explain why. And there are areas of slow creep. So you'll keep the job for a little while until the AI gets better, and then you'll be in the danger zone. So to give examples of those professions, let's go to the cognitive quadrants. So the safe zone, a psychiatrist. That requires a lot of empathy and understanding of the human mind and emotions, etc. That's unlikely to be replaced by AI soon, unless you get into it. Actually, I believe that's going to be unlikely to be replaced by AI anytime soon, but we'll see. Well, the danger zone, I can't read. Oh, yeah, of course. That's the classical example. Radiology is just interpreting an image. That's clear. Now, the human veneer, the general practitioner, family doctor. The family doctor, you go to the family doctor, he looks at 4 signs and tells you have a flu. Well, that can be done by AI also, but maybe you need that empathic figure. You need somebody to say, haram, take this, somebody to smile. So this is the human veneer category, where there will be a human being interfacing the AI, interfacing between customers, users, and the AI. But the doctor that will consult the AI all the time, maybe it's not going to be a doctor like today. Maybe they're going to see their income drop. I don't know. But I mean, there's an effect there. And to finish with slow creep, the legal analyst today, AI is not good enough to replace a legal analyst, but that's going to happen soon. If we go into the physical profession quadrants, same thing. The danger zone, we have a truck driver, and we know that's going to be automated very soon. A slow creep, house cleaner, Roomba. Imagine a much bigger, much dexterous Roomba that can do more than just sweep the floor. It can clean the windows, etc. That's not impossible soon. I mean, the next decade at least.
Today, the Roomba can call its sister the sweeping floor. When it finishes, it calls the other one. It comes after it and sweeps. It's not there.
Yeah, imagine when it starts calling the cousins and. Yeah, true. The safe zone, physical therapist, it requires a lot of dexterity again. It requires a lot of social interaction where there's a patient, etc. And a bartender is a human veneer, because if you assume that there's a big distributor of all the cocktails you can imagine, you just plug in the bottles, press a button, you get the drink, but you still have the bartender there to chat. Exactly. And that's it. So we've covered. So that's what remained from some of my original slides on this one. But I want to branch into something else. Yesterday, Caleb, I believe, the keynote speaker, yeah, and others, yeah. I mean, we talked about machines that, okay, there's the singularity. I mean, will machines, after the singularity, get self-consciousness, or they will just be very fast computers that are executing amazing AI algorithms very fast? So what will happen after the singularity? Are we going to get beings or tools? That's a good question, because whenever we think about AI future problems, we think that it's as if we have no responsibility in it. There's going to be some new being that will appear out of the magical lamp, and it might kill us or love us, or we don't know. Somehow we're waiting for that to happen, as if we're not doing it. We're waiting for that to happen to start thinking about it. Like we're at the verge of the most cataclysmic event in human history. It could be positive. And we're not doing much. We're leaving it to companies, to Silicon Valley or to China, companies with self-interest that are controlled by a small number of shareholders to decide the future of humanity. In any case, so do we want to think about this post-singularity? Will we have an amazing tool, a super tool, or will we have a being? Is it is it something we can, is it something we can use, or something that will sit next to us? Whether sit next to us, we become it, it kills us, I don't know. Nobody knows. I mean, there are a lot of theories, and not going to get into that. What I like to think, how I like us to think about that for now is instead, I mean, I believe AI creates a bias and could be somehow a misnomer. It's an artificial intelligence, so there's intelligence. We can think about it as just a super database with super algorithms connected to everything in the world. That's still super, but it's not intelligence, because intelligence hides behind it other meanings that skew our thinking to other things. And so if AI is just super, 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 and so what's going to happen to us when, I just want to leave you with this thought, which is also, I mean, since I removed the economy part from my presentation, this also affects the economy. So what would happen if power is concentrated in the hands of very few companies, Silicon Valley or China or elsewhere, but there are few companies controlled by few people, few shareholders, and they will get the biggest tool ever in the world to control everything? Isn't that going to take us back to serfdom, if we don't want to say slavery? Because suddenly they have this computer that is past the singularity that can exceed us in computations. So if I want to trick it, to destroy it, it'll know, it'll think ahead, or it'll calculate ahead. I won't be able to control it. Whoever controls that controls everybody else. So I think we're just approaching towards that point without any real discussion. Besides that, this is something that we should do because it's progress and we have no control over it, and it's good for the economy or something. It's good for Google. It's good for these companies that are in the stock market. Whenever they announce some advance or some new use cases or whatever, they see their value increase. The shareholders are happy. That's good, but where is this leading? So that's the thought I want to leave you with. That's another one. I couldn't help doing these slides, but I couldn't help but to think about this movie. If you're familiar with Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove, or how I learned to stop worrying and love AI. I mean, AI is as cataclysmic as Tsar Bomba and H-bombs. At least those were in the hands of democratically elected governments democratically elected, but still, the hands of governments. AI is in the hands of who? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nassar, for giving us the interaction between Internet of Things, AI, and things we hope we don't reach to at the end. I'm pleased to present Mr. Gerard Rafia. Gerard has more than 30 years of experience in building and marketing technology solutions in capital markets and corporate banking. With this unique profile, he created FinTech Minds, a strategic advisory company to support financial institutions, assist FinTech companies in identifying right products and markets, and assist private equities in identifying and analyzing target FinTech companies. Before creating FinTech, Gerard held senior positions with Calypso Technology and Murex. Gerard will be talking to us tonight about artificial intelligence in FinTech, implications for financial services. Gerard, would you please?
So thank you for being here and inviting me. So this is so let me make sure I have the right buttons. Okay. So this is the title of my slides. So what I will be talking is about the developed world. My PowerPoint is about the developed world, and just as kind of an education, what will happen in the emerging world. So everything I'm talking is what's happening now in the US, Europe, Australia, Japan, those guys. So this is my title, and it's quite boring. What I should put as a title was adapt or disappear. And this is the message I'm sending to the bank. Either they adapt today or they disappear. And it's happening. So let me explain a little bit. First, let me show you what I will go through. So one thing, I'm a proud member of Lebnet, a diaspora in the US that helps Lebanese startups. We help them, we finance them, we teach them, and we help them grow. So having said that, I was asked to say that, so I did it. Now I'll go through what I'm doing. To understand what I will be talking about, we have to understand what's the financial ecosystem.
That's George talking.
George asked me to do it, so I did it. So the financial ecosystem, we need to understand the banks, complexity of banks, because I will be talking about banks mainly. Then what's happening, and then an important regulation, the PSD2, that will change the way we know about banks. It will change the banks that we know. It's disastrous in one way. And then we'll continue. Let's start. This is the banking, and I would say the financial ecosystem. When we say financial ecosystem, it's not only bank. What we call on the left side, it's the sell side, it's the banking. And the banking, you have the monsters, the JP Morgan, the HSBC, the Barclays, the global like BNP and those guys, the regional DZ Bank and that. And then the small bank like the local or that, the Bank Al-Lati, Yusuf Al-Lati, that's the corner. You have a lot of banks. And then you have, and each bank has a lot of operation, investment bank, treasury, brokerage. They do a lot of stuff. And then on the what we call the buy side are all the institutional investors like insurance, pension fund, hedge fund that uses the bank. And you have a lot of different, I would say, type of buy side. And then you have the other players like the central bank, World Bank, regulator, custodian, exchanges. That's all part of the financial economy or financial topography. Then you have the providers, the new providers of payment, Apple, Alipay, Google. Those are all providers of payment that are part now of the topography. And then the technology provider, database, algorithm, whatever library, analytic library, and those, and the cloud providers, important cloud providers. Last but not least, the consulting company when you hire a consulting company, you pay tens of millions of dollars to them. They will tell you, they write one sentence that you could have paid, I would say, nothing to get it. They are good in that. So, لا ما تخاف. So what JP Morgan issued an analysis in the 2008, mid of 2008, estimating $200 billion by 2020 spending on data management, that means AI more or less, and 15 to 20% spent by financial sector. So who are? These guys are under deluge of data. They are receiving billions of teraoctet or billions of octet of data every day, and they have to report, especially these guys, they have to report to their auditor, to their, I would say, central banks, and that means that the data that they have to give in order in the name of transparency is huge. So they are drowning in data. So having said that, you are not it's not intended for you to see everything here, I don't think. It's just to show you how banks are complex. This is just an investment bank part. This is the investment bank, what they do in general. So imagine the crosses are the regulations, and the red cross, I call it red cross, it's the PSD2. That will change everything we know. And I will explain what's happening. And AI is coming, just if you're thinking why I'm talking about that, I will talk about AI later on. So this is the complexity just for investment bank. Imagine you have corporate banking, treasury, brokerage, wealth management, portfolio management that replicate this complexity also. And this is only in one entity, in one region. Imagine all of these replicated in every region the bank operates. It's a huge mess of complexity. Okay? So, and we thought regulation is over. We saw the crosses, a lot of regulation that are pushing banks to give data, to produce data. In fact, as I said here, think twice. Basel IV is coming 2021. This is an additional layer that's huge. And then there are regulations that were pushed to 2021, like the Fundamental Review of Trading Book. That's huge for banks. It was supposed to be done in 2018. The banks were not ready. It was pushed to 2021. This is huge. So regulations are here, and are still coming, and they need data. They need reporting. It's not finished. So what's happening? So the banks are under a lot of pressure from regulation, from data they don't know what to do with it, from the fintech that are starting to pose a challenge, threat to them, and from the new generation of people, of youngsters, they don't believe in banks. They are not. For example, if I want to trade, I'm not the new generation, but my son will trade at you know, I forgot the name of the company now. I have it, Robinhood. Who said Robinhood? Good. I will trade at Robinhood for free. I will not go trade on TD, at Toronto Dominion and that. And you have a Russian bank also now. Every youngsters is jumping to it. So I would say the banks are finding that are not able to attract the youngsters. So they need to think. They need to start thinking about something. And what is it? Oh, the new digitalization strategy. That's the holy grail. But let us be clear. Whatever the bank does in the technology is for one reason: cost reduction. The bank wants to reduce cost. Their cost of operation, running cost is so high, the regulation, the investor, the shareholders want the bank to reduce cost. So whatever a bank jump into a new technology, it was in mind to reduce cost. And there is another thing. Today, data is the name of the game. Data is the new El Dorado. It's not the algorithm, AI, that's the new El Dorado. It's the data. So the bank found it. The Holy Grail is here, blockchain. The blockchain, they thought this is the revolution that will eliminate the intermediary, that will eliminate custodian, will eliminate exchanges. And I wrote a paper in 2016 about blockchain, stop the hype. And it was badly received, and I was in a conference like this. I talked about it. It was badly received. And guess what? 99.99% of the project on blockchain in the financial sector failed. Why? Because they tried to create a solution for a problem that didn't exist. They jumped, everybody and its mother jumped on the blockchain. That means now every bank, they started, and then they stopped all the project. The second is you hear a lot about digitalization strategy. What is it in reality? Creating better mobile applications, having better payment application, scanning the checks, dropping checks and that. That's interesting. Now banks are more and more doing that, but this is a short-term advantage. That it doesn't help them to grow or to attract people. Why? Because we expect every bank to have this mobile application. And it's very easy. JP Morgan started with it in the check being able to scan a check. Now every bank and its father has this. Every bank allows me to pay from point to point. So there is no advantage. When you democratize those applications, it's a very short time. And I'm talking short time, it's in months, not in years. They got an advantage in few months and not in years. So it's not something that makes the client sticky to a bank. Now the Holy Grail, AI, where they are using it. So AI, and now they are fronting about spending on AI on the same level they were doing on blockchain. Sometimes they understand what they are doing, sometimes they are not. So let's talk a little bit about AI. What type of AI today are used in bank? Well, the first one is machine learning, deep learning. And it's used in these areas. Stock pickings, they call it sentiment analysis, stock sentiment analysis. In this area, they are using it. And I will put a caveat around it. Stock picking was here a long time before. That means it's not something new. And it's not always by AI that you can do the best work. So it's, and then I will open a parenthesis. Why we're talking about AI? I forgot it. I should read what I wrote here, but I don't have my eyeglasses. So why we're talking about AI today? It's for two reasons. Cloud, cloud, cloud. Without the cloud, we don't have AI. We don't have data. It's the data that generated, that's the cloud that generated all this data and gave us the power. And the democratization of analytics in the AI, TensorFlow, whatever, those are democratized. You can use them anywhere. You can rent from Watson time to do your project. So that's what brought all this data, and now that's why we are talking about AI. And there is one company, in fact, two companies, in fact, they brought this on us. It's Amazon and NVIDIA. Without NVIDIA power computation, you don't have AI, believe me. You don't have the power to compute. And without Amazon that opened it, you are not here. So let's go back. When we do stock picking, it's very much used in stock picking. It's very much used in credit rating on social behavior. Now there is a new company now growing fantastically called Lendo. What they are doing, what the banks are using it, not everybody has a good credit score. But you might be good, but you don't have a good credit score. Lendo is doing credit evaluation, social credit evaluation. You heard China is doing that now on the level of the government. They look at your web browsing history, they look at your tweets, they look at your chats, or at your Facebook or whatever, and then they try to evaluate your credit worthiness by social behavior, which is much better than evaluating by a FICO score, which is based on financial behavior. And it's gaining tremendous attraction, Lendo. So risk simulation, customer behavior, that's all being done slowly. And we'll talk later on about other things, but let's continue. Now, oops. The GAN and the CNL, those are visual algorithms. They are very much in use today on the loan and the onboarding, on the contract, analyze the contract, look at that, onboarding, recognize the fraud, images, signature fraud. That means it's very much being used today in bank. And they are using this technology to report documentation to FATCA and those things. So technology is being used right now in the banks. Next is the natural language processing. We all know it, chatbot. The chatbot that you see it, it's very well done in the wealth management. What's happening in the wealth management, instead of spending hours asking you the same question, where do you want to send your kids? Where do you want to spend your retirement? Where? It's a chatbot that asks you those questions, prepare the road for the analyst or for the consultant to be able to give you a better service. So they are empowering the consultant. And that's important. For example, Crédit Mutuel is using Watson today, and Watson helped improve the customer satisfaction by 60% in the wealth management branch. The same experience is being replicated at Bradesco in Brazil. So chatbots are here. When they understand you, it's perfect. When they don't understand, it's a catastrophe. So now I would finish the time. 3 minutes? Okay, explainable AI, let's forget. PSD2. PSD2, what's PSD2? PSD2 is the bank has to open their interface, their API, their data to software company. What does it mean? Oracle will come and will say, Gerard, you have 15 interaction with 15 banks. I will sit between you and the banks. Give me authorization. I will connect to your banks. I will know all about your payment, your behavior, how you will do stuff. Now you don't interact with your banks, you interact with me, Oracle. I decide with which bank you will do business, and I will give you the best service. They changed the way the banking. Now you're not talking about banking anymore. You're talking about financial technology sitting between you and the bank. And what was the El Dorado? Data. The bank are losing data. So what does it mean? Are they doomed? No way. There is one way to do it. And this is the aha moment the banks start having. Creating a strategy. What is the digital strategy? A technology ecosystem, getting meaningful data, allow bank business to increase. Don't forget, you need to increase the business. It's not about having technology for technology. It's about money. So let me show you. This is a project. I did it with a bank in Dubai. They wanted to do something. So how the bank are reacting, because I'll finish. So we decided with the bank to create a marketplace app to allow third party to develop, and the bank uses their system to present the third party. We are in a gig economy. I would like to see my budget. I would like to see my account, my budget, my bills, my investment, my spending. I have my private and business. I would like to be compared to my what's happening to my age and that, how they spend, and I would like to talk to my bank, not type. And this is a project we've done, and those are other companies' apps. I use now part of Mint and that to do it, to do it, but it's other company apps. The bank is using those apps, integrate them in their environments. What happens? Those companies now have access to hundreds of thousands of people immediately, and the bank is now, if the bank is doing my budget, is doing my P&L, is doing my liquidity analysis, give me the risk, they know my behavior, they know what I'm doing, they are helping me, they are more entrenched into my business, they have more data on me, they can generate more service, and I will stick with them. And that's the digital strategy. And then, of course, where is AI? You understood it. When I have all this data, the AI will help me create new services. The AI will help me build and get more money and make my client more sticky. This is what AI will play. And not to play AIs for fun. It's about data. When I have data, AI will be meaningful for me. Last but not least, too many players in the market. There is a consolidation that will happen, and I will talk about it later on. Not every company that has .io and stamp AI, they are AI. There are a lot of scams out there. Okay?
Thank you.
Sorry, I took more time maybe.
Thank you very much, Mr.
فينا ناخد أنية المي هون؟ Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rafia. We already have some sensitivity towards banks in general as clients. So with IE, with artificial intelligence, we should be even expect the worst. I am pleased to present Mr. Bassem Mullah. Bassem has over 33 years of experience in IT for business and management consulting, of which 10 corporate and 23 as a serial entrepreneur. He is currently an artificial intelligence subject matter expert at IBM and the business development manager for AI and advanced analytics solutions. He has provided professional services to different industries from telecom to finance, healthcare, government, and other. This has given him a deep perspective on the integration of technology and work and its impact on organizations with extensive experience in IT. Empowered by his vision and driven by a passion for innovation, Bassem is putting new technologies to work: AI, advanced analytics, deep learning, Internet of Things, blockchain, and cloud that will ultimately transform business. The title of Bassem's presentation is IBM Watson Deep Learning Experience from Research to Application. Bassem.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for the Scientific Committee of the Order of Engineer. I think that this session is of great interest, and it's a good idea to have organized something on artificial intelligence. So I'm an engineer, and what I'll try to do today is to open the box. As an engineer, I want to understand, I want you to start thinking that you can do something in artificial intelligence. So maybe in 20 minutes, I want to succeed to get you into this business. I want you to feel that you are capable of doing something. So it's not a lecture. I will give you my experience into that. So I will go in 3 phases. First, I will talk about the research. What are the types of research they are doing? Then I will go to application that is done by IBM, and application that I did also myself in IBM. At the third moment, I'll talk about tooling. What are the tools that are necessary, and what is the methodology? What are the methodology to put AI in practice? So let me start by the research area and get you into what are the different parts of research. So you know, knowledge in artificial intelligence is created in research. They do research projects. We did see Dr. Haj presenting some of these projects, but there are many projects that are done, and they are open. You can access all these projects on archive.org. Just go to this website, and you see a lot of research papers that are published, and even you have the source code of this research. So my first message to you is that artificial intelligence is not a hidden science. It's open for all. But you need to understand and to go there. One interesting study that I found, also on archive.org, the study done by Elsevier on December 2011. What they tried to do is that, what they said, AI is a misunderstood word. Everybody use it, misuse it, and so they used tens of thousands of documents in order to analyze what does AI mean and what are the different research areas of AI. So this is a scientific study to understand what AI is. So they came up with 7 clusters of research area. And maybe you cannot see these 7 clusters, but what I will try to do is to explain each of these clusters and how it connects to the other one. It's sometimes difficult to understand AI. Why? Because research has a certain language, industry has a different language, you have the teaching, academia has a fourth language, and media has a different language. So here we have them all. Let me start by search and optimization. You are engineers. You all studied what is optimization. But optimization, search and optimization, is something that has evolved over the 30 and 40 years. And it's not only what we call convex optimization, where we have this gradient descent. We go to something that is really different, like heuristics. This word, you should know it. You should start about understanding what are these heuristics. One of the heuristics is this genetic algorithm that were presented today. And we have hundreds of heuristics. Hundreds of heuristics algorithms. And we have meta-heuristics, that heuristics and heuristics. Why? Because optimization is really difficult and computationally difficult, so we need to have approximate solutions. They are not the correct solution, just an approximate optimization. This is why Dr. Haj said, well, I'm not guaranteed that I will get the good result. It's a search and optimization because I'm searching a solution for an optimization problem. What is interesting in this area is that most of these heuristics are coming from nature. Researchers were observing nature. So you see atoms, you see molecules, you see DNAs, you look to plants, you look to colony ants, to bees, you look to swarm of fish or birds. Hundreds of these algorithms to do optimization were inspired by nature. They are not correct, they are sufficiently good to solve a problem. So this is one major component. The second component is machine learning and probabilistic reasoning. Let me go to this machine learning again. We hear a lot about machine learning. Machine learning, for me, it changes totally the way I do business. I have been into consultancy for 33 years. So when I build an IT system, I go to a certain client, I ask him, what do you want me to do? I get his specification. I write the specification. I give it to a programmer, and he does the program. And then you check whether this program is compliant to the specification. Today, it's totally different. I come to you, I tell you, what are your specifications first? You tell me, no, I'm not giving you the specification. Look, I'll give you my data, and you have to find the specifications from data. So it's totally inversing the way we write programs. And as a consultant, you cannot go and ask, what are your specifications? So it's the programs that should have been specified are really embedded in the data, and you need to understand them. So when I see data, I see software. I see software that can extract from this data. But not any software, it's the best software. So this is where optimization comes, because this is the best software that embodies this data. So machine learning is very much related to optimization, but it has also this probabilistic reasoning part. What is probabilistic reasoning? Is that all the incertitude that we have in linking facts together. So if you have, for example, a fact, it will change all your belief about all other facts. This is the probabilistic reasoning, and we have probabilistic programming languages that are getting here, like Edward II, like Julia, like any other types of programming languages. The third area of research is neural networks. Well, neural networks is it's a type of machine learning, but it's inspired by the brain, human brain. Well, what it has is that it has multiple layers, and each layer is creating the features that will be used by machine learning at the second layer. So it's multiple layers of machine learning, of standard machine learning. So this is why neural networks discovers the features. You don't need to engineer the features. This neural network really was at the origin of the current hype. It started in 2012, and it impacted heavily the computer vision, the natural language processing, and the planning and decision theory. So these are the 7 areas that are impacted by creating knowledge. And this knowledge is taught, is used in industry and in media. And here I'm coming to my application part. We have seen yesterday Mazen presenting many of these medical imaging. This one is related to the retina image 1, which gives 95% accuracy on diagnosis of what we call the Sikari diabetics. So it's much more powerful than 8 panels of ophthalmologists looking at the same picture. So what does this mean for me? First, it means that maybe I would need AI to teach ophthalmologists, because I have embodied in these AI systems a lot of knowledge that I don't want ophthalmologists that are studying to lose. So maybe it's a good tool to train and to certify ophthalmologists, not to take job from ophthalmologists. So maybe we need to think on how we create our knowledge and we keep the knowledge at the human level. So this is one of the lessons that I wanted to pinpoint. And the second lesson is that the FDA did approve officially the use of these artificial intelligence tools. So it's no more a research project. It's coming to industry. But here I'm joining a little bit the discussion that we had yesterday on the ethics and the learning. And I think that for this specific case, we need to think that machine learning should help human learning. When it comes to health data, well, you will be surprised to see that only 10% of the health data is clinical. Then 30% is coming from the genomics. And 60% is your lifestyle, whether you sleep, what you eat, you do sports. 60% of the data is coming from. So, as I said also, for me, when I see this data, clinical data, this is like the scan, the laboratory analysis, this is only 10%. A lot of research has progressed here in this. This is why I saw you saying that radiologists will go out of business. There are the medical laboratory results and that. We have the DNA, 30% of data is in this DNA, and you have exogenous data, the 60%, where it's a huge piece for developing AI. What forbids you, for example, from taking the photo of a plate, what are you eating, And it will give you how much calorie, what are the constituents, and so on. So a lot of innovation are in these data. My second example is, I don't want to go out of time. How much is left? 10 minutes, okay. So these are the type of project that we do currently. These are demand forecasting. What is demand forecasting? You know, you have a lot of time series in businesses. What is a time series? Is everything that is fluctuating over time. It could be prices of stock. It could be prices of commodities. It could be demands for a certain good. What is the orders? What is the... It's all supply chains are full of these time series. One of the most important things in business is to forecast correctly these time series. So one of the difficult things is that we have a lot of peaks in these time series, and we don't understand these peaks. So what we do is we do some average on these peaks. And this is where AI is coming to enhance these. We want to understand what does this peak mean. And this is where we feed the system with different type of data. I feed him with weather. I feed him with social media data. I feed him with local sports event, if it is a retail business that is nearby. So different feeds of data to get a better prediction and have the understandability of these peaks. So this is typical project that are done. In addition to that, this data is augmented. What I mean by augmented, I bring additional data, geographical data, temporal data, and I position my data in this, and it finds correlation, geographical correlation between events, between maybe competing businesses that are sitting nearby, between transportation, between weather, and between what are my predictions. So this is data augmentation. Your time series are augmented by this whole spectrum of data coming from it, and you give better predictability, and you understand these peaks. So AI will disrupt the business. So why? This is a business process, typical business. I have been in business for 33 years, designing these processes. This is a business process where we have these specific tasks. So definitely in narrow artificial intelligence, you would go to a certain task and say, look, this task now, we have more interest to put it in AI. Yeah, good. Or there is an AI provider that will give you this task. Let me give an example. In insurance companies, they will not send somebody to go and to diagnose the damage in the car. They will just send a photo of the car, and the AI will give you what is the amount of the repair for this car. So if you have such a service in AI, it reduces your cost, and you will get all the insurance companies to send the damaged cars photos to this web service to give it the quotation. And it will be the best quotation. So I will transform certain tasks. I will borrow other tasks from AI providers. But what else? What is more important is that the sequencing of the tasks has to be rethought, but it will be rethought dynamically. So what is the next best task that I should do, and not having a prefixed sequence of tasks? And every business will ask himself this question. Just, I will take the example of the order of engineers. Let me challenge on that. You have a lot of data. I think that you have millions of records. Millions of records on drawings. What could you learn from these drawings? Could you provide AI service from these drawings? If you can provide an AI service on the validation of these drawings, then maybe you would become an international player in the scene, and you will collect more data. coming from China, coming from Japan, coming from Europe. So you leverage your data to create an AI service, exactly what said Gerard, and you will capture the data of the others. And you are 6 months ahead of them. You will keep this distance. So you have to go fast. This is one of the ideas. So it's every business should ask himself, what type of service AI should I put in place to be exceeding that? Last, I will come to the IBM tools. I'm not selling IBM. All the tools are available open source. But what IBM did is they embed everything in a nice tooling system to keep the consistency between models and to do sanity check on these models. Well, it's open. Everybody can use it for free for a certain credit. So it's about having the idea and starting. So these are some screenshots, but I will not. This is the Power AI platform. I will not go through that. I will go through my final chart, which is the following. It's on the methodology. You should not be afraid of failing. Everyone starting AI project is failing. So it's this approach, we call it the IBM Garage. You start by design thinking. The design thinking is a 3-day where you start see, well, I'm at the order of engineers. What are the things that I can do that can leverage the data that I have that can have value for the others? It might be going from 2D to 3D. It might be how to change a drawing to be an environmentally acceptable drawing. It might be, this is a design thinking, where we need to sit with engineers and start thinking on what are the data and how can we leverage this in different ideas that makes us special. The second one is to start build a model around that and operationalize it, and then observe. And here's this observation. This is what also one of the innovation at IBM is to detect any biases, to give transparency, to give understandability, and to give trust in this AI. So these are tools that comes and embeds any model that you do. So I'm on time. My last is that I'm part of LabNet as my colleague. And LabNet is a network of Lebanese professionals abroad. They are in the IT field. Thank you very much for your.
Okay. We will go into our last talk before we get into the panel discussion. We are already a little bit over time. So I welcome Ahmed Labbas, who is a data scientist with a track record of strategically planning, designing, leading enterprise analytics from infancy to production within large and complex businesses. He has 8 years of experience in data science and data engineering, and he is spearheading the AI Data Initiative at DAR. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science from the American University of Beirut, and he will be talking about AI and deep learning transforming the architecture and construction industry. Ahmed, are you with us? Yes.
So earlier today and yesterday, speakers have already talked about artificial intelligence and the history of AI, so I will not dwell much into that. But I will say again that AI has been here since the 1950s, but it wasn't until the convergence of data, computational power, and algorithms that has allowed us to monetize AI and disrupt many industries. If we look at the landscape of artificial intelligence today, McKinsey estimates that AI will generate value somewhere between it's not. Now it's working? Okay. McKinsey estimates that AI will generate value somewhere between 9 trillion and 15 trillion across many different industries and business functions. And we can see here on the slide the top beneficiaries from artificial intelligence. And as you can notice, the architectural engineering and construction industry isn't among the top beneficiaries. In fact, if you can notice here, the construction industry is at the trailing edge of the spectrum when it comes to artificial intelligence and maturity in artificial intelligence. Construction here at the bottom. This is beginning to change. Many stakeholders in the AEC industry are beginning to realize that AI isn't only an innovation that pertains to different segments or different industries. AI is starting to have a disruptive touch point on the entire life cycle of project management in the AEC industry. Be it bidding for projects, cost prediction, resource scheduling, etc. At Dar al-Handasa, we are tackling AI in a dedicated approach. We want to use artificial intelligence in a manner that will allow us to bring in innovation to the industry and also have quick wins, because for us to gain support of senior management, we need to have them taste the value of AI rather than just talking about it. And this brought us, I'm skipping slide, this brought us to the use case of employing artificial intelligence for the sake of construction site safety. We decided to tackle this problem for two reasons. First, injuries and fatalities on construction sites are in the thousands, and they occur every year, and this is value in and of itself. And the other reason is because the abundance of image data that we have. We deploy drones in the construction sites that we supervise, and there are CCTVs. So we have an abundance of image data and video data on construction sites. And as the speakers have mentioned in the sessions before, artificial intelligence and deep learning, when it comes to computer vision, has reached human-level accuracy and beyond. They are now more accurate than human beings. So for image data and video data, the suitable AI algorithm that should be used is deep learning, and specifically convolutional neural network. A convolutional neural network is a type of neural network that feeds in inputs, frames or images, extract features, complex features from the input, and then classifies the input to one of the output that we are training it on. For example, if we feed in the image of a car, the hidden layers will learn the features of the car, and then they will specify whether this image is a car or a truck or a van. And training a convolutional neural network is a huge endeavor. It takes weeks to train a convolutional neural network, and it requires tens of thousands of images and videos. So we decided to resort to something called transfer learning. Transfer learning means we take a pre-trained convolutional neural network, we take the hidden layers, and we remove the classification layers. So the hidden layers are the layers that can detect edges and curves in an image. And we remove the classification layer, And we trained this convolution neural network on our data so that it can be able to classify images pertaining to our data sets. So now if we feed it images from construction sites, it will make use or exploit the previously trained convolutional neural network and classify the image to the labels that we are training it to classify. This is the architecture of the neural network. I will not dwell much into it, but as a reference model, we used a YOLO V2 convolutional neural network. It's the state-of-the-art CNN model. It stands for you only look once. We used it. It's an open source framework. And we took images from construction sites, we fed it, and we detected construction workers not wearing helmets, not wearing gloves, not wearing vests, so that AI can detect them in real time. And this is very important because compliance to safety measures is actually not complying to safety measures on construction site is very costly also if we fail to comply. And the result was, this is a video. We are drawing green squares on those who comply and red squares on those who do not comply. There is one who is not compliant here, this guy who just passed. Our model is also trained on detecting gloves and vests, but this video was on the first version of the CNN model. Okay, so for any enterprise to embark on an AI strategy, there are 3 pillars that cannot be missed. First is data, as you have already heard from previous speakers. Data is the core of AI. It's the bloodline of machines. And if you don't have a data strategy in place, you cannot embark on an artificial intelligence strategy. You should have maturity in your data platform. You should be able to tap in different data sources into your enterprise, unconventional data sources perhaps. And you should have a data strategy in place. Second is people. There are scarcity in data professionals, AI professionals in this area. And without the appropriate skills and expertise, we cannot make use, we cannot succeed in our AI journey. And third, technology. We should be able to understand which AI framework works best with which type of data, which data source. Image data requires, for example, convolutional neural network. Different data sources or different data types require different types of neural networks or machine learning or deep learning algorithms. And in enterprises, we are faced with a huge heterogeneity of data from multiple, many different sources. And with the introduction of smart cities, Internet of Things, and smart cities, and what have you, knowledge in the appropriate technology frameworks is key in the AI journey. And thank you. I was fast. That was faster than. Any questions I can take?
We'll do the.
Okay. Okay. Sorry.
Thank you, Ahmed.
Thank you.
For giving us an idea on how AI could be used in promoting safety in construction. We are ready now to get into session 5, which is the panel discussion. I invite the moderator, Grace Najjar, please to come in, and all the participants in this, Tariq Kabrit, Imad Al-Hajj, Rabi' Nassar, Shafiq Maqbil, Joe Takli, Basim Mullah, Gerard Rafi'. It's going to be, please, Yami. Our panel moderator is Engineer Grace Najjar, who has over 25 years of worldwide experience in management consulting, coaching, and leading people, managing processes and business technology solutions, and alignment with standards and best practices across industries, private and public sectors, and not-for-profit organizations. She founded her own company in Beirut, Align Management Solutions, in 2010. Her experience includes managing diverse programs and complex projects, including banking, government, information, communication technology, ICT, construction, manufacturing, and education. Grace engaged for over a decade as a long-term, short-term expert on specific missions for international funded programs, EU, World Bank, USAID, GIZ, in MENA region. She currently is the Strategic Corporate and Government Relations Middle East for PMI, Project Management Institute. Grace Najjar has received several awards as a distinguished Arab woman in consulting and coaching. I'll turn over this to Grace.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if, good evening. Thanks for everyone. If we stand, please. Hello. So thanks for everyone who could stand this rich day. So I think we're grateful for the audience first. And I'm not sure if the scientific committee wanted to privilege me or challenge me. So this is the panel, which is in the second day, and I have this prominent caliber of diversified experts. So I'd like you to collaborate with me to make it as much interesting as possible. With all the great things that were said, I'd like to take it with you to the Lebanese scale. So how could we really benefit with all what we have called it, whether artificial or some people call it augmented intelligence? Rabia, you challenge even the word of intelligence. But I think we all believe that it's going to optimize the way we do. Optimize, do more with less, reduce cost, improve competitiveness, improve profit, and impact the economy. To the Lebanese scale, for the people who wants to take takeaways, I'd like to hear from you, how can we start by tomorrow applying the IoT? And I know that there's a combination of technology that should be there. You talked, Dr. Imad, about the limitations. We've got lots of limitations in terms of data. We have no data in Lebanon. We have no sensors. The infrastructure, we're still facing lots of basic issues with the infrastructure. So how could we, we're very much optimistic with your end. Even Rabia talked about the unfairness. How can a country like Lebanon benefit from these opportunities? Dr. Imad, I'm going to give you the opening of this panel.
Okay, thank you. I'll be very brief because this is kind of the slide I ended with. And it depends when we talk about data. I think in Lebanon, at the national level, if we talk about government, there's definitely a lack of data, at least not in the digital form. Now, in some sense, that's a good thing, because unless you have a framework and the mechanisms to take care of your data, you'd better not have the data and not digitize the data. And we've had bad examples of that with the vehicle registration record. And once that got registered, once that got digitized, it got leaked out, and everybody has all the records of all the cars in Lebanon and who owns what car. So you could imagine if the same thing happens with the Ministry of Finance. It's getting digital, but we have to worry about that, Minister of Health, and so on. So in some sense, the lack there is not a problem. It's a limitation for us having to apply AI. On the private sector, though, there are a lot of opportunities. FinTech and the banking sector in Lebanon, I assume that they have a very rich data set that they can actually tap into. And the question though is, do we have the ecosystem? And are we going to support an ecosystem where we develop these technologies, and are we going to have the courage to actually develop these technologies locally? And I make a very big distinction because regionally, compared to the world, there's very little being done. And this is not only in AI, this is in almost any other domain of technology. Very few things are being developed here. And I stress this point because unless we recognize that and we start working on a policy and a plan and an incentive for us to have development here, such as the central bank did with the Circular 331, we will not catch up with the rest of the world.
Thanks a lot. Allow me to introduce Mr. Tariq Abid. Welcome, and I'm going to give you a little bit more time. You are the co-founder and CEO of Seize, and this is an intuitive car selling, buying, and lending app in Dubai and Kuwait, which has been cited by leading publication as the tech game changer. So I'll let you introduce this, I think, one of the top, which we're proud of, applications of AI, of the technologies. How could you leverage these technologies, and how did it boost your profitability, and what are the challenges?
Sure, thank you. I'll just tell you very quickly what the app does, so you know where we use AI and how. So it's a car buying app. We have three main features. The first one is image recognition. So sort of like Shazam for cars, you snap a picture of a car you like on the street, we tell you what the car is. Then we have some pricing algorithm. Again, we use machine learning to try and predict car prices. And the third feature is sort of a meta search engine. So you tell us which car you want. We search all the websites in the country. And then we have an AI chatbot that starts negotiating car prices for you. So it learns over time, it talks to people, and it gets you better prices on cars. We would have loved to see all the data of who owns what, but that didn't happen in the UAE where we started. We also use a lot of big data to support the OEMs, so the brands, the BMWs and the Mercedes of the world, to try and predict demand and to predict which cars to order, when and how, and all of that. There's definitely a big gap in the Lebanese market on the data side, and that's partly on the sensors and the way it is being collected, as well as digitization. To put things into perspective, in the UAE, in the car space at least, we have 87,000 cars listed and online, and in Lebanon we have 4,000 cars. So even if you have the capability, if you have the power of the AI, without the data, you're not really going to get very far with that.
Amazing. I'd like to quote the ex-CEO of Twitter, which has been the keynote of PMI, Project Management Institute Symposium I'm involved with. He said, and I heard him saying, that many organizations focus on protecting their past, unfortunately. But what they really need to do is to focus on protecting the future. And that's why Amazon and Netflix, they have been there for 25 years. They keep on reinventing themselves. Rabi, I'd like to hear from you. How do you see organization? I'm not talking about the scale of Amazon. Anyone who are leading small and business here, engineers in all sectors, professionals, how can they leverage and start step by step the technology so that they can sustain and not shut down in a few months or few years?
Do you have an easier question?
On the spot.
No, okay, so that's how to leverage new technologies to reinvent yourself. I mean, we know, people should know that the world is changing very fast, much faster than we can even imagine. And so nobody, I mean, we've heard stories about banks. We're in an economy where people are used to the model that existed in the 50s and 60s, where you inherited a business and it kind of let you work little and live very nicely through, like all through your life. I mean, that's definitely going to be challenged, disrupted. So what people should do, I don't know, but they should, what they should know is that they cannot continue doing what they've been doing so far. And they should be more open to change. They should look towards what they're doing with an entrepreneurial eye, trying to look at what really they're doing, where's the value, and weave their way through using new technologies to reinvent themselves, or they will disappear. And I like the fact that banks are going to disappear. That's a good one.
Mr. Mullah, IBM perspective, how do you see us leveraging that in Lebanon?
From IBM perspective, how do you see? Well, we think that two persons sitting in a Starbucks cafe can create a business that will be disruptive. So whether these two persons are sitting in a Starbucks in Beirut or in Istanbul or in Belgrade, it does not matter. What I want to say by that is that all the technology is available over the internet and for free. It's up to our imagination to create whatever we want. So I joined my colleague in talking about entrepreneurship, and I was entrepreneur for 25 years, so I believe in entrepreneurship. And I think that we should have this mind of set and see that AI is not unreachable. It's over our hand, but we have to spend time, we have to understand, we have to learn. And
thank you so much. Mr. Gerard, our banking sector is one of the major pillars of the economy, hopefully a stable economy. And all of the banks that are going into digital transformation and all of these technology, they are more a technology company than a bank. So how do you see it positive and still making our economy more and more stable? We haven't seen you so optimistic about all what's going on in terms of crypto technology, blockchain.
That's a different subject, crypto technology. I have my hard opinion on it, backed by facts. For the banking, let me put it this way. It's seeing people here that are very good, and that gives me optimism. But talking with two CEOs of banks this week, I would say we're far. We're far. They don't have this in their mind. That means I was talking about the PSD2, that the software company, you need to reinvent yourself. Maybe it's not happening in Lebanon. Well, two things I talked to them about, this regulation that will bring software company, at least in Europe, and I'm working, and Dubai is being forefront on this one. There are some banks in Dubai that are trying to use the AI and that to create new services, where here the answer I can, oh, we're good, now we have our client, they will never leave, that the AI or whatever technology will not replace us, and that was a C-level discussion. So my answer was, so you're telling me you will remain on the archaic infrastructure that you have? He said, it's working. So I told him, my answer to you, if I have a company coming from the US or whatever, headquarters, they ask me, where should we put our headquarters? I will tell them, go to Dubai, not Lebanon. They are very archaic. And the C-level needs education. So there is an education. I'm not very positive, so sorry. But it needs the C-level in the banking industry in Lebanon needs an education to do other services than just taking money and giving money, that the standard loan.
Transition to Dr. Shafiq, to the professors. So how can we close the gap? Obviously, there is now the new generation, which is even after they graduate, it's already too late. Not talking about us, 25 and 30 years of experience. What are the universities you doing to make a generation which is better prepared for the workforce?
We are obliged to follow the trend at universities. If I count today, probably my students are here. So most of them are asking for projects in AI, and they know it from internet. We are in a global world. I do not agree that we cannot be part of this world. I do not agree. It depends on, even in the banking sector, if I may, I am sure that at the C-level, they might not be there, but we will have to follow. The idea is the new generation know that they are here. The economy is global. We cannot even, no one could think that we will develop an AI application in this field and we'll apply it only on the Lebanese market. If this is a bet, it will be a fail. If you want to be developing AI applications, then we need to target the global world. And the students, and we have heard it several times from all of the speakers, will be able to be competitive because this kind of technology do not need a lot of effort. The efforts are in the data. We need data. And if we do not have data, someone else over the world will offer the data, and we have a lot of data in open source. So I am pretty sure that our students will make the change. But this is a pity because this will come with a certain phase and we will not be profiting from the beginning of this technology. This is really a pity. We'll catch up if we have some brilliant of them that will try to make the technology itself, not its application, progress, but this is a bet. Oh.
Joe, not talking about music, because if I open the music, everybody's gonna jump and ask. So let's stick with the transformation a little bit, although we have a conference, by the way, 26, 27 of March about education. So we hope everybody attend that one. But it's a key. I think education, the knowledge economy is a key, and we're talking about human capital. So what about the old generation? Because there are, with the advancement, we have an aging generation which is still taking lots of opportunities, right? So what are you doing to educate? Is there any role for universities in supporting executives like Gerard mentioned?
This is a tough question. Of course. Well, let's say universities' prime role is to educate the young generation. That's the initial, that's what we do. Now, educating the senior or the older generation, it could be through conferences, it could be through seminars, it could be through showing them what the young guys can do. And you'd be surprised what our young guys can do. Lebanon, among the, other than all the, aside all the negatives that we have in this country, we have a very vibrant educational community, very strong universities. We're graduating some of the top guys that are joining top companies all around the world. I'm talking about my own university, but I know that our sister universities, AUB, Balamendi, USJ, all of them have graduates which are reaching very, very excellent levels in terms of companies or in terms of other universities doing their graduate studies. So I think by these guys, these CEOs, witnessing what the young guys can do, that should change their perception about things. Regarding banks, because we were talking about banks, I had a personal experience with one of the, I'm not going to name the bank because it would damage its reputation, but there was a major one, maybe the biggest or one of the biggest banks in Lebanon. They started an experiment with a team of about 50 or 60 programmers, developing different projects around computer vision and AI. Their vision was to allow you to use the bank without ever going to the bank. So you create your bank account by sending a picture of your ID, and they verify it, and then all your transactions will happen through blockchain without you ever stepping foot inside of the bank. The project went for 2 years. When they were reaching like some sort of a prototyping phase, it was stopped. And then because the CEOs felt, okay, let's do it traditional. Right? This is a cultural thing that we have, a cultural problem that we have in Lebanon. There's an old saying which goes like, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. I think this is a wrong saying. Right now, we need to rethink things. Even if they are working short term, they might not work long term. And immediate profit might not be sustained with the changes in terms of technology. So I think these guys need to learn. And hopefully, if they don't, the next generation will. So we might not be able to change things right now, but maybe when this new generation takes hold of things, things might start changing to the better. I don't know if I answered. I hope I did.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on the issue of universities because I think we have, at this day and age, we have an obligation beyond the education. I mean, I agree completely on the education aspect, and I think most universities in Lebanon are doing fine with that. And the proof is the graduates that are taking the leadership position all over the world, and there's many, probably most of the people in the room. I think we need to move from that model to something more, which a colleague of ours, Dr. Ayman Qaisi, says we need to, in addition to graduating students, start graduating companies. And this is something that AUB is working on significantly from different aspects, working on the entrepreneurship. And unless we instill in students that option, just at least as an option, that you can create a company and you could succeed in Lebanon, and that could be your dream, you've heard me say that before, then we will not succeed in creating that ecosystem that I mentioned and creating that Lebanese dream that the Americans have created, the Europeans have created, the Canadians have created, the Chinese now have created, the Emiratis have created. We don't have it. Our dream is to go to one of those other dreams, is to migrate and adopt one of those dreams. So unless the young gentlemen and ladies in the room say, you know what, my dream is to open a company in Lebanon because I know I can flourish and succeed, none of this would have meaning. We will just remain where we are.
Yes.
I fully agree with you. I just think there needs to be the full ecosystem that supports these entrepreneurs. So if the banks don't want to change and the hospitals don't want to do anything, and at the end of the day, you need to create a service and partner with some of these big companies. And without that, even if you have the talent, even if you stay here, it's really hard to make it happen. For us, we looked for talent here. We have an office here. We tried to find some really good AI engineers. It was extremely difficult. We ended up bringing people from Denmark, like 5 Danish guys, because we couldn't find good AI guys here. And it was shocking to me because I know Lebanese students are exceptional in every field. Then what I figured out along the way is all the good AI guys leave, like they either go to tech companies abroad or they go with the McKinseys and Boos of the world. Yeah.
It's not for insisting on that fact, but I need to reiterate. I think that at the central level, the central bank has this circular that is supporting creation of what is the number? 61 or something like this. And so I don't think what is lacking is this support. I think from my perspective, what is lacking is the connection to the global economy. If our young youth want to stay in Lebanon, the Lebanese market will not be enough to create dreams. We need to have our students and we need to change policies in order to facilitate the connection to the global market. Then if we do that, then I am sure that we do have some brilliant students that will be able to create some values that can be marketed everywhere. But the idea is how we connect to the world. This is my perspective. LabNet is one solution. Therefore, I was looking this direction.
Yeah.
That's why I'm waiting for it.
I'd like to raise the matter of the inequality. I think Rabia mentioned it. Who owns the AI and is it fair or not? It's creating too much discrepancies. And is it a growth at all costs? Is it winner takes it all? How can we create a sort of partnership for a social inclusiveness?
Okay, well, first, on the inequality, my concern, and I might be wrong, I know we cannot stop progress, but and with AI, it's not, the rich north, developed countries against underdeveloped countries. I think within developed countries, we're giving very few people the power to exceed everybody else by insane to concentrate power in a way that exceeds everybody else. So will it be Google, Facebook, or the usual suspects or somebody else? But AI has that capability to concentrate power in the hands of few, and we're approaching that timeline, that singularity, without really asking a lot of questions. I see everybody talking about we're going to get to the singularity and computers are going to be more powerful than brains. Okay, and what are we doing? What are? It's not as much as saying that China and the U.S. are going to win the AI race. It's who in China and who in the U.S. is going to win the race, and what's going to happen to everybody else. That was my concern. So dialogue. I don't know if dialogue solves it. Dialogue certainly, but yeah.
Yeah. Let me comment on this aspect of entrepreneurship in Lebanon and succeeding. As we said, AI is a global technology. It's accessible to everyone. We Lebanese, we are also everywhere. And so I think that this is a real asset for Lebanese to succeed also globally. We have much more leverage to have this international success because you have partners outside. So LabNet is one of them, but there are others. This is where we need to think as a community, not only what is happening here. I said before, 2 persons sitting in a Starbucks can create a company, a great company. But if they have also connections all over the world, no other nation have as expatriates as we have, and in every city in the world. So it could be a good synergy between local entrepreneurship and our global presence. It's a global industry, and we are very well positioned in this.
What about the public-private partnership? With all the challenges with our public sector, I think that has been the solution, and we're seeing UAE moving forward with these synergies.
In
How
the
could you
public
see
sector?
it? Yes, public-private sector.
Well, I prefer not to answer.
I don't. I'll answer. If somebody else wants to volunteer. In the UAE, it works because there's one guy pushing the buttons. That's it. Here, I don't know. We don't have buttons.
You agree?
And what?
We don't have a gun.
I don't want to comment. And on the other thing is regarding the Lebanese community. True, we're everywhere, and the leaders that I meet occasionally in Silicon Valley or anywhere, the type of companies they're controlling, they're managing. It's amazing. It's incredible. However, we're not a community wearing outside. I know LabNet is trying to do a lot of work. I love LabNet. I try to promote it. But even the people that are part of LabNet sometimes, they will talk, they will pat on somebody's back, but they will not go out there. They'll not go out of their way to help a Lebanese company because we don't have that sense of community. We're individualistic. When we go to somewhere else, we want to be part of that somewhere else. That's it. It's unfortunate. I've witnessed that firsthand.
So one thing you said is that the Lebanese community and then they are good. There is something we have the most expatriate. Yeah. There is a difference. Our expatriate stays there. Look at the Chinese in the state. They take all the knowledge, come back to China, and build. The Lebanese take all the knowledge and stay there. Well, I'm one of them, and there is nothing that pushes us to come here, honestly.
And recently we're seeing even Americans moving to China. At least in academia, we see top individuals in different areas that are actually permanently moving to China and taking positions there. This is amazing with all the language barriers that we don't have anything like that. On the private-public partnership, I think there are some success examples, and unless we believe in that, and unless the government opens up, and I'm not sure why there's always a fear. We might have theories of why there's a fear always of this public-private partnership, but we see it in electricity generation, we see it in most of the services. But where the government had opened to the private sector, that's where we have seen some success and some improvements occur. And I don't think the government has an option not to do that if they want to leapfrog and have that leapfrog that we mentioned. And then when the government opens up, then maybe the people that are very experienced and have established a dream somewhere, they'll believe to come back and say, I can make a difference and have an impact here. And until then, they're going to be small initiatives here and there.
Well, I do agree on what we have said now, but let me say that the Order of Engineers might have a role in that, through Mazen probably, because if we believe, and personally I do believe, at least I have to believe after all these years, that machines can become intelligent and smart and solve problems, then this problem of connecting our ecosystem to our expatriate should have some characteristics, should have some elements that inhibit this connection, and we might put it on a table, probably not now, but probably through Mazen, to see what are the elements that make these links not so attractive. Why from both sides it's not so attractive? We cannot say that machine can solve problems and we human with our intelligent background and ego cannot solve problems like this, which are crucial and might also be crucial for our expatriate. I suggest that actions to be taken by the order in this direction.
Turn it back to Mr. Tariq. What's your opinion about the transformation into a gig economy? So how do you see us recruiting skills more than people in a traditional structuring organization? What's your experience with independent contractor? I think everybody's here prefer to work at home for a company in China. for a work and balanced life. Are we going, and figures show that within 2022 is going to be 40% of people unemployed. So the future of employment is changing. What's your opinion?
Yeah, it's definitely growing across multiple sectors. I mean, from some services to the Ubers to the Airbnb of the world. It's a new trend that started a few years back, and it's just growing exponentially as we move forward. I read somewhere that in the next year or two, 40% of people are not going to have a full-time job, but they're going to be doing multiple things. And people are now looking to get the satisfaction of, like historically it was, okay, I get a job, it gives me everything, the money, the career, the everything. And then over time, people realized it's very hard to find one job that gives you all of these things. So what they're starting to do is they're starting to mix and match different jobs that give them different things. So one job can give you money, another one can give you the creative outlet that you want. And that's the source of the whole gig economy. It's people doing different things that allow them to capture what they want.
I'd like to open it to the audience, so please feel free to interrupt and ask questions. Can we make the mic available, please? There is a question also. Oh, go on.
Just wondering if you saw any potential for actually a growth in jobs in the regulatory, like in government agencies. So I'm thinking, I was excited when I saw the last presentation about occupational safety and health. I thought that was neat. And in the US, we have NIOSH and OSHA, which deal with research and regulation and enforcement in occupational safety and health. So the question is, can government agencies now, reach out to companies, or should they send their own drones in? Or should they say, now companies, instead of us sending our inspectors with a checklist and going through and visiting the construction sites, are we going to require companies to have drones and do this kind of need analysis that was shown? So I just think that there could be a potential for growth in jobs, and if in things like this area, and it may seem, though, invasive, the data sharing aspect comes out. And when you look at, besides occupational safety and health, but just like the Ministry of Health, are they going to then look at cancer data and start to say, well, why don't we screen everybody, and is it going to be required or a choice, and all of those things. So I think it could be exciting for government job growth, but I wondered what your thoughts were.
This is a very political question this week in Lebanon. I'm not sure if you're aware, but there's a question of about 4,000 or 5,000 government employees that we're not sure how they got hired. So I'm not sure if we're actually looking for growth in jobs in governments, or the other way around, that when we improve the public-private partnership, maybe we would need less of government workers and less of overhead, and then more of enabling of the private sector to apply some of these things because of the advantages of doing that.
Dr. Haj stated that he would like for us in Lebanon to be technology creators rather than consumers. And part of this utilization of AI technology is industry solutions. And what I understand from AI is that it is a marriage between industry expertise and technical or IT knowledge. And I believe that there is a gap, a bridging between the two generations, the people who have the industry expertise and the people who have the IT expertise, and each one is lacking the second. And there is no common language between them. You cannot interact. You don't have the minimum basic language to talk to the other party. For example, at IBM, Mr. Mullah, I think, said that this is open for public and it's openly accessible. And I don't know what are the basic requirements for me to start utilizing such a platform. And my suggestion goes, my question goes to the university programs again. What is their responsibility in rehabilitating us, the people who have the industry expertise, in order to start not be experts, but at least to talk the language. Thank you.
Start. Okay, sure. I think, again, I'm not going to punt the responsibility. We definitely have a responsibility, but it goes beyond the education. So I don't think it's about us teaching you AI. I think you know enough about the AI and the potential, and I'm willing to bet that you already have a couple of ideas in mind based on your experience how to apply this. The question is, how can we find a common ground of collaboration, whether through research or whether through an enterprise, whether we do a company around it. I think that's the key, that we need to have the catalysts where we can have people talking together, and just having these type of workshops and seminars and events and putting out the awareness. I think now you would start thinking about who should I approach and what university to actually start collaborating on this, because you don't need to have everybody becoming an AI expert for us to use it. It needs a conversation, a discussion. That's simply what it takes. And it's about us also learning your language and not the other way as much. The same thing, we've seen it when we work with medical doctors. It takes a lot of time for us to learn and understand, and they actually tend to understand and learn much faster than we do. And I bet you have enough about the AI. The question is, would I be able to understand what you're talking about? And that requires really simply a conversation. That requires a coffee shop, so that we don't have an ad just for one, to go to a coffee shop, Eunice maybe, and have a discussion, and then think about, can we monetize that idea? I'm willing to bet that, that's what we do. We collaborate. Unfortunately, we tend to collaborate more with Canadian companies and American companies, and the government in the US fund our research more so than we get with the local. Hopefully that could change.
Again, I totally understand your concern, and it's a valid concern, but it takes two to tango. To get back to Mr. Nahas, you need the companies to be interested, and you need the academia to have the time, effort, and energy to do it. I give you also two of my personal experiences. We jump-started last year, or 2 years ago, a collaboration with the School of Medicine at Lebanese American University, between schools of engineering and medicine. I come from the School of Engineering. We were collaborating with a professor from the School of Medicine to give we called it a medical informatics course, but it was actually machine learning and AI for medical students, so that they learn the lingo, the basic language, to be able to communicate with engineers. And the final result, or the final evaluation, was to have them simply propose projects which could be solved using machine learning or AI, so that we wanted them to express their needs correctly. That was the final goal. Can you, after this course, express your needs properly to an engineering student so that that student can help you? Now, we had a lot of success stories, but we had a lot of not very successful stories, because we saw that while some medical students were very interested, others disconnected. They felt they want to be doctors. They don't care about technology. It's outside of their, field of interest.
Good luck.
And we were telling them, be careful. The technology Watson is already competing with you in terms of diagnoses. So it depends on the two parties. To also follow up on what Imad is saying, for example, with LAU, and I think AUB has the same in Parliament and other universities, we have collaborations with international companies are more interested in our data science and AI guys than in Lebanon. For example, this year only, the School of Engineering at LAU sent 21 interns to BMW Group. 21 interns. In other words, we have almost one semester of ECE. Some of the courses are being canceled because we have a whole batch of students going, and all of them are working in machine learning, AI, virtualization, computer vision. The guys are taking them to Germany, and our guys here do not care or do not know what's happening. So again, awareness is very important. You being a senior in industry, asking questions is a very positive indicator. Now, can I add one more thing? Also, to be fair to the Lebanese, I'm Lebanese Canadian. I'm 100% Canadian and 100% Lebanese. This is a good thing in the Lebanese and Lebanese people, when they are living somewhere, they give it their 100%. And when they are in Lebanon, they give it their 100%. This is a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing to belong to where you're living. It's not always good to drink from the well and then go back home and then no. When you're working in a certain environment, you have to benefit that environment. And when you go back home, you benefit your home. So I think that's a good thing, even though working in a community is maybe, we lack in community organization maybe. That's the downside of it. But the good side of it is we integrate. And maybe we need to start thinking big. I mean, Lebanon is very small. If some of our graduates go and have good careers at BMW Group or at CERN or at Microsoft, I don't think it's a bad thing. We're becoming a global community. I mean,
we had one at Nissan. Look what that.
That's looking at the negatives or the exceptions, but so I don't think it's a bad thing to think global. I don't think it's a bad thing to keep the doors open. At the end, Lebanon is very small. Some people like it here. Some people prefer to go somewhere else. It's not bad to integrate where you are. In terms of industry and universities, I think there should be a willingness to collaborate from both sides. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, let me go back to this question of gap between language, between business experts or industry experts and IT. I think the gap is much more important, is a little bit more important than that. You need to have a third person, which is a mathematician or a data scientist. We call it a data scientist. Because IT persons don't know mathematics. And IT persons don't know AI unless they spend sufficient effort to learn AI. AI is mathematics. And here I come to two ideas. First, incubators are really the good places to do these matchings. So we heard yesterday the experience of Peter in creating incubator. Incubators are a good place. I think universities, you have incubators. Then I'm coming to my second idea. The Order of Engineers hosts 70,000 engineers and maybe 30,000 engineers for the North, so in total 100,000 engineers. These are the best mathematicians. They learn mathematics. I think that they can easily transform their skills and knowledge to get into this AI. And the IT guys need them. So I think that the Order of Engineers representing 100,000 persons that are already skilled are in the challenge of transformation. Incubators are the good places, and you need to have this dialogue between these three competencies: business, IT, and mathematics or data scientists.
So just if I understood your question is that you're from a business background and you want to be able to talk to IT, maybe you have an idea. It's not necessarily you're talking to AI. So what surprises me is that we all looked at the university to teach us. Well, you have a lot of online courses. When I had an idea in my mind, I'm a businessman also. I wanted to learn. I went to MIT courses about AI. I didn't know anything about AI. I'm talking 5 years ago. And they took me step by step for a non-technical. You have MIT courses, you have Coursera, you have Udemy, you have that. You don't need the university. Sorry for that, guys. You don't need. You want to learn the tech language? It's open. It's open. You need a plan. You have to have a plan why you want to learn the tech language. Learning tech language for fun takes you nowhere.
Correct, 100% correct.
May I leverage on that by saying no, هالمرة معك على الآخر. By saying the following, what we are lacking is order. What you say, a plan. We are lacking in order. We have to acknowledge that in Lebanon, the best enterprise, but not the best, the biggest enterprise are PME, are small enterprise, SME, small and medium enterprise, PME in French, okay, are SMEs. And SMEs cannot afford having a research and development department. But SMEs need to sit together to find a way in different sectors how to organize their resources in order to progress. We need to have to create order. Without order, it's very difficult. And then when this order is created, then each SME say, well, this in this common pool, we can put this, and this will be mine, this will be in my own part, and then we ask a university to help, we ask the order of engineer to help, whoever, then things can be organized. What we need is to be a little bit conscientious in what we are doing. If we really want to have progress using AI, then what are the resources, how we can share some of them, and how we can take some of them on our own account, because these will give us some edge, some competitive advantage. But we need to create order or a plan if you want.
So I'll agree that you don't need universities to learn. We know that's a fact. But I think you're interested, and the audience is interested, is beyond that, is how can I create something new with this knowledge? And there you need a university. You need the research because you want to push something. And this is, we're going into the issue of developing a technology or buying a technology. So you want to understand it enough so that you could develop something with it that does not exist. And I think that's where the partnership with the university comes in. Now, to blame the universities is that historically universities are seen, and university professors are seen, that they're sitting in their tower and doing this theoretical mathematical stuff, which is not a bad thing, and tanzir, okay? It's not practical, what is it good for me, and so on. And that is why that culture needs to change, and realizing that universities have changed. And universities have recognized that they have to be applied, that they have to be aware of what's going on, and what they do, the theoretical is still good, but a lot of us have to do something that is applied, that is transferable to the market. And once that realization hits the market, you would start thinking of university as an option to be a partner, especially early on in developing the idea. Now, unfortunately, we already see that the militaries of the region have recognized that. So regionally, we've had militaries contact us for specific AI applications and robotics automation in weapons. But we've not had as many of the industries contact us.
I come from the construction industry. And probably everybody knows that this industry is way behind in terms of automation and AI and the like. And somebody yesterday said that our neighbor to the south is very much advanced in terms of AI and in terms of advancement. And I noted that probably about 50 or 60 new technology companies only focused on construction industry exist in that small neighbor to the south. What is the catalyst for them to innovate and to be present in this market and to be leaders in this market that we don't have? Is it something behavioral? Is it something due to our community inability to interact with each other, to collaborate with each other? Or is it something at the core of the AI business that I don't understand? This is what...
All of the above, including US funds, including high-tech companies that would open there and will not dare open an office of representation here. So there are many political international political aspects to that success, and it's not only attributed, and they're smart and they're doing the right thing, but it's not only attributed to that. There are many other factors that play strongly against us in that respect. So when you have Intel and others that open huge facilities there, we don't get that in Lebanon. If we get a couple of these open in Lebanon, you'll see a very different Lebanon. It's not very difficult to hire the whole 100,000 engineers that we have. It's a couple small companies.
May order, yeah, the last comment. We have concluded. No. I can say. Yeah. No, I come back to the question of order and organization, and I do not like feelings when thinking about issues. Don't look what this or that community does. Look to what you need. You have a certain number of constraints. You are in a specific industry, in a specific business. Look what are the constraints for you, how you want to progress, and then act upon in a very cold way. And then in the future, you might reach higher places. But do not think that they have things that I do not have. I think this kind of reflection is very effective and sentimental and not really constructive. Constructive is what are our constraints in this piece of world, piece of country, what are our resources, how can we progress, how can we be serious in progressing, and things will evolve. I mean, what is going on nowadays, we are in a total disorder, and we are progressing in disorder. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'd like to close it out. I think this subject, it can never end. I'd like to thank a lot my panelists. It was a great discussion, and you can take it further. I think they are reachable by all means, and I thank for the scientific committee. And is there any one word that you want to
finish with a picture in mind for you guys about AI? Think of a poor guy putting on his hair, poor, and asking for money. And another poor guy next to him, poor.io, need funds. And everybody is throwing money. We're in this cycle of AI. Be careful.
Any other
Yeah, my last comment on that is to be on the AI is always to have maybe 6 months edge or on top of the others. So yes, the knowledge is out there, but you need to be ahead of the others. And this is how the intellectual property is created, because just you have these 6 months ahead of the others. So you don't have to be afraid to fail. Everybody fails, but you have to start and to do this quickly. This iterative, agile approach is extremely important to succeed in AI.
Thank you.
Poor.io.
You need funding?
One more. The
last word,
yeah.
thinking long-term rather than short-term profit in terms of industries. If you want to really benefit from technology, you have to invest a little bit. And don't think about the immediate return. Think about a good idea that could be sparked in your company and that could produce a lot of revenues, but a little further down the road. So, and I think most major companies do that. They invest a little on the side, and they know that there's not going to be immediate return, but they think on the long run, there might be one good idea among all of these guys, which would earn me a lot of money. Long-term rather than short-term. This is also a problem in Lebanese mentality. We're always in the short-term planning, in everything. We have to think a little longer.
To be more patient.
Exactly. We need to earn our stripes at the end of the day.
Thank you. Dr. Rafi, last
remark. Learning is intelligence.
Okay.
And I think I want to point out that it's not only about AI, and I want to iterate that, especially for areas like construction, because augmented reality is also a huge technology that could change things for you beyond just AI. And I think you should be exposed to all of them.
I just want to echo that. It's technology in general and the new trends that are coming in, what they can do, not just AI.
Thank you so much. Have a nice evening. Can we have a photo with the scientific committee board members, please?
قالت ايه؟ عربي